Live from the Orange Grove 55 studio, it's the Duck Pod. Today's topic is Nintendo earnings and more. Starring Mr. Seymour Duck, OG55, and Mr. Webba.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the fine feathered friends tuning in. You have officially landed at the Duck Pod, your destination for deep dive discussions, lively debates, and the freshest takes on what's floating in the news. We are a panel dedicated to exploring the niche topics and trends, from the fascinating worlds of Asian culture like K-pop and anime, and to straight up deep corporate talk, and everything in between. And here's your host, the main mallard, Mr. Seymour Duck.
Hello, as that fine feathered friend that kind of looks like me, I swear it's not me. Welcome to the Duck Pond. As he said, I'm your main mallard, Mr. Seymour Duck. And before we get started, folks, it's going to be a quack out show tonight because we have two incredible ducks joining our flocks to talk about Nintendo and its massive earnings. They're flying high in the world of online content, and they're landing right here on our pond to chat. First up, he's the duck that knows all the hidden message and lyrics. He's always on the top of the freshest music drops and can give you the entire history of every animated mouse and princess when he's not reviewing the latest tracks into Disney trivia or showing off his incredible knowledge of K-pop. You know him, you love him. Get ready to stand and cheer for the feather-fly OG55.
Yes. Seymour, I appreciate it. That's an amazing intro. You were too kind, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on the Duck Pond. I can't wait to talk Nintendo earnings and Nintendo just in general. This is a great company, a company that I grew up with. As a kid, I was really into Nintendo, the NES, the Super Nintendo. Nintendo was actually a really big part of my childhood. Honestly, don't tell Bob Iger because I might lose my special access, but in my early years, Nintendo played a bigger role in my youth than even Disney. Disney was later on. It was in my teens, more or less. But the Nintendo, that was my childhood. But anyway, Seymour, I want to thank you for having me on, brother. I do appreciate you.
Yeah, and where can they find you online at OG55?
Yeah, you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55 on YouTube with these fine feathered friends, Mr. Duck and Mr. Webba. And you can also find me on Instagram, Orange Grove 55 over there. I post pretty regularly on there now, so check me out over there. But yeah, absolutely, check us out. And again, thank you, Mr. Duck, for having me on.
And thank you. And next, he's got the fastest flappers in the industry, and he's ready to quack the case on the biggest topics tonight when he's raiding dungeons with his flock or streaming his latest speed run. He is the true online legend. Please power up your applause for the unstoppable Mr. Webba.
Yes. Seymour, you are the man. Mr. Seymour Duck, thank you so much for having me on the Duck Pond tonight. I'm super excited to be here with you and OG55. This is going to be great. I like what OG said, like with Disney, I have also loved Nintendo. Disney and Nintendo were like two big things growing up, right? And I started out with the NES, playing like the Little Mermaid, Super Mario Brothers, Monopoly. That they had that, right? So it was a fun time, a good time, and now Nintendo has come so far. And Mr. Seymour Duck, my body is ready.
Yes, my body is ready to talk about Nintendo and its earnings. And where can they find you, Mr. Webba?
Absolutely, Seymour Duck. You can find me on all social media platforms: Instagram, Threads, Twitter. You can find me all there at Mr Webba 91. You can also find me right here on Orange Grove 55 with these two duckies. Quack quack.
Quack quack indeed. So yes,
right.
The first topic I actually wanted to talk about is the actual earning itself.
Perfect.
Oh,
so
wait, actually. I actually wanted to talk about the scratch that, reverse it. I actually wanted to talk about 40 years of Nintendo and just to talk about how Nintendo changed our lives. I can't believe it. The first Mario game, the first Super Mario Brothers game came out 40 years ago.
It's crazy. No, that's crazy, Mr. Duck. And like I said at the top of the show, man, I grew up on this franchise. I grew up on Nintendo as an overall franchise. When I was a wee lad, a wee OG. This was my go-to, man. I love the Nintendo and Mario. I remember going to I would talk to our buddy Jared from Capture the Magic. You know, I'd go to Toys R Us with my mom or my grandma and getting those tickets, because back then you would go to the Nintendo shelf and they didn't just have a bunch of cartridges there. Like, you had to go and you'd have to get like your ticket and take your ticket to the front of the toy store, and then they would give you your game. So I remember going to Toys R Us, man, and like it was like the most exciting thing ever to like pick out your game, take that ticket to the front. It was amazing. But Nintendo, I have so many amazing memories from this franchise, and Mario especially. So it's really, really cool. And like a huge congratulations. 40 years is massive, dude. Absolutely massive. But yeah, it's exciting. And Nintendo, I know the video game system, right, has been since 85, but like I believe Nintendo as a company, they started off like a card game, right? Like over 100 years ago or something like that in Japan.
Yeah. Over 100 years ago, illegally, apparently, they were doing playing cards, because what happened was gambling. Playing cards was considered gambling back then, like years ago, 100 years ago in Japan. Now, not so much, but they would design it in a way where it's like art, and that's how Nintendo started. And they worked with the Japanese mafia to get that all started as well. The Yakuza family, yeah. Yeah, for me with Nintendo, it's been, I was born in the 90s, so I started with the first Mario game and gone up. And I remember my stepdad, my dad, kept giving me the hand-me-downs of video games. He's like, "Oh, here's a Nintendo system. I'll get the Super Nintendo. Oh, here's a Super Nintendo. I'll get the N64." And I remember playing it. I remember playing Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt. There was a combo pack with the first game, Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers, and that was my first game, and that was starting my love for Nintendo. Ever since then, big fan. And I remember the days, like you know how you said you go to Toys R Us. I remember going into Blockbuster and just going in there and just playing the games there, or going to McDonald's and they have their N64 GameCube sections in the play place, and you go play. They don't have those anymore, but those were the good times at Nintendo. And I remember it. And Mario was there in my entire life. And it's actually funny because you said that Nintendo was first for you and then Disney. It was the reverse for me. It was Disney first. And then Nintendo grew bigger and bigger for me.
That's wild. That is absolutely wild. And it's crazy to me too, Seymour, how these franchises really shape us as human beings, as men. Like it really does. It's crazy how whether it's Nintendo or Disney or whatever, the things that we consume as youth, right, impacts us later on in life. Like here we are, like none of us would all be here tonight. None of us would all be friends or even know each other existed if not for these franchises, which is absolutely incredible, which I'm really thankful, honestly, not to get like sentimental or sappy or whatever, but I do appreciate both of you. And I love our friendship, and the fact that our friendship started because of like this franchise and Disney, which started decades or generations ago, is absolutely mind blowing to me. So it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool to hear it. What say you, Mr. Webba?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, real quick. Speaking of Disney, I just want to give a huge shout out to our good friend Kiki and Luca. This sweater I'm wearing tonight, Walt Disney Imagineering. Kiki and Luca was kind enough to actually send me over this sweater. So Kiki and Luca, thank you so much. Love you, man. I really appreciate it.
Kiki and Luca is the absolute. You're right. He is the man, bro. Like he is such a supporter of the channel, but beyond that, he's a great friend of ours. And so big shout out to him, Kiki and Luca.
Yes. But yeah, with like I said, with Disney, right? I grew up with like Disney baby characters and betting when I was like 3 years old. But then when I got to around 4, I started playing the NES for Nintendo, right? And I remember playing it on like the boxy TV that had like the turn, like I had like the knob, you turn stations, And I remember that. I remember I had it like sitting up like on the shelf, and sometimes I would trip over the cord if like a friend was playing, it would knock the whole thing over. But to this day, I still cannot beat those games. They're fun, but here's the thing, though. There was something about those games that were just really fun as a child, right? The colors, the sound effects, the music that came with those. Like I love seeing how like Luigi was like, what was like that white and green color, right? And then Mario was like that red and blue or brown because his hair is brown, right? Luigi had brown hair, but he had like the white overalls, the green shirt. Mario had the blue and red. So it's really cool having like that color distinction, the backgrounds, the sound effects, the music. It was just all really fascinating to me as a kid. And Nintendo just kept going up and up from there to that. You know, Super Nintendo, GameCube for me was also another big one with Nintendo because even though I love Super Nintendo, the GameCube was like the next level, right? That was really that big leap. Well, after 64, it was that big leap, and you had like Super Mario Sunshine, you know, yeah, Mario Kart Double Dash. It was just a great time. 64 was fun as well, but yeah, Nintendo's still going strong, right? I mean, we have a lot of great stuff coming out. Mr. Duck, I saw that we have the Metroid Prime 4, coming out. That's going to be awesome. So yeah, I'm excited to be here to talk about Nintendo. Nintendo's great. Congratulations on the 40 years.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, Mr. Webba, like how, and this is all subjective or whatever, but the thing that I love about some of the older games is that the graphics weren't perfect. It didn't look like the imagery you would see in a movie. It felt very much like when you played Duck Hunt or you played Kid Icarus or you right
Yes.
or you played Metroid or Super Mario Brothers, like you knew this was a video game.
Yes.
It was pixelated and it wasn't like, I mean, it was high tech for its time, but like you knew that it looked it had its very own unique aesthetics compared to that of a movie. Where nowadays, and I'm not trying to like, crap on current games. I don't want to be like that guy, like back in my day, we were better. I'm not trying to say that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be like that kind of guy because I think there's a lot of cool stuff right now in this current generation with Gen Z and what have you. Actually, I really like Gen Z. I think they're going to be a pretty dope generation overall. But anyway, the video games back then had a certain charm to them though, where it was like, because the graphics were kind of like primitive and not that great, and the music was just it wasn't anything super fancy. There was a charm to it. You know what I'm saying? It just had there was beauty in the simplicity of it all, and I really enjoy that. That's partly why Nintendo, even to this day, though, still has maintained a lot of that charm. When you play a Mario game today, yeah, the graphics are smoother, and all that good stuff. They're obviously better. But it still feels like a video game, though. Like a lot of the Nintendo stuff still feels like video game properties, which I like, and they're fun. And anyway, yeah. And also, recently, because haven't really been a gamer for a real long time, but I did go through a little bit of an Angry Birds kind of phase until they started to upcharge the shit out of you for everything. But back when it wasn't like upchargy, I liked Angry Birds because it had that same kind of old school like video game kind of vibe to it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, just for me, I'm an older dude, so for me, the old school games had a lot of charm, a lot of cool energy to them, and I really did enjoy.
Did you ever play the mobile game Flappy Bird?
I did. Hard. It's not easy. That game is not easy, Mr. Duck.
Yeah,
Not
no,
easy.
so here's the thing: is the great thing about the Nintendo games, right? Is, to your point, OG, is they're not making them like super realistic like Battlefield 6, right?
Exactly.
They're always updating the kind of the graphical artwork, but they're still keeping it kind of cartoony. You know what I mean? So it's not like this super hyper realistic game, and I think that keeps them in that kind of family entertainment brand. But hey, like these are our IPs. This is what they are, right? They're video games. Everybody loves them, but they're not supposed to be super hyper realistic, right? Well, they'll still look really good, but they're still going to have that kind of video game cartoon, kind of Pixar looking element to it, right?
Yeah.
But I think Nintendo's great. Nintendo's great, and I'm really curious to now where the direction of Nintendo's going to go now that was it Duck Bowser is leaving, right?
Yes,
So,
Doug Bowser is leaving. But and there's actually a few topics we're going to talk about that today, including with Nintendo pictures and whatnot. But first, we'd like to go with the earnings here.
Let's do it. This is courtesy of CNBC. Hey, look, when it comes to Nintendo news, I think CNBC is fantastic. When it comes to Disney news, I think CNBC has a horse in that race where they might not be 100%, on the up and up. But for this, I think they're perfect. Nintendo hikes Switch 2 sales forecast to 19 million units as flagship console momentum grows. This is courtesy of Arjun Karpal of CNBC. There's 3 bullet points here. Then I'll take it over to you, Seymour. It says Nintendo is riding a wave of momentum after launching its latest console called the Switch 2 in June. The Japanese gaming giant said it now expects to sell 19 million units of the Switch in the fiscal year ending March 2026 versus a previous forecast of 15 million units. Revenue was up over 90% year on year. 90%. That's not too shabby. While profit rose more than 270%. Wow, that seems like a pretty weak quarter, Mr. Duck. How are they going to ever survive?
That was a fantastic quarter for I was gonna say Disney. No, this is Nintendo. This is a fantastic quarter for Nintendo. 90%. I do want to state though, it is a little bit high because we just got the Switch 2, where last year we did not get the Switch 2. So, there is that high number, but it is showing that the Switch 2 is doing well and doing phenomenal to the point where we don't have a lot of software for the Switch 2. We only have a couple of games, and the biggest hitter right now is Mario Kart, and that's selling, well alongside with the Switch 2. This is a fantastic earnings. Are you guys getting the Switch 2?
It's funny. I was actually really considering it. Go ahead, Webba.
Yes, I will. When? I don't know. That's the question. And but speaking of bringing in more revenue, right? I think a little bit has to do with them, of course, raising the prices on their games, right? I mean, you're talking $80 for Mario Kart. Like that's $20, more than our usual games, right? The console was, I think, more. Was it $500 now, Seymour? Right?
For the console.
Yes.
Console, yeah. So it's like $500. You're now having like $80, like $70, $80 games. So the price of gaming has just gone up more. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously the demand for the Switch 2 is there, right? And you're going to see, I think, a little bit of a higher increase of profit or revenue just because of, you're selling your product at a higher cost now, right? And even when I was talking to OG actually not too long ago. I was like a month ago or so. I was actually getting my car service, and I was walking into a Walmart. I was looking at all the Nintendo games. I was like, "OG, I gotta get this game. I gotta get this game. Get this game." And all of Nintendo's first party IP games are all like $70-$80. I'm like, yeah, that's never dropping.
No, it's not. Nintendo is, and Seymour, to your credit, you brought this up a lot, but Nintendo's a premium brand. It really is. Like I consider Nintendo like a Disney or an Apple, right? Where they have an incredible brand kind of reputation. So they can kind of get away, just like Disney kind of can, and Apple, where they can get away with higher prices because people feel like they're getting a quality product, right? And I get that. A lot of people probably will tell me in the comments, but I don't know, Disney did this and that. And I get it. But overall, it's still a premium product. People still could see that as a premium thing. But same with Nintendo, right? I mean, it's a trusted brand. People trust their games. That they're, it's a family-friendly brand. And it really is the Disney of Japan. And Mario is really the Mickey Mouse. And again, Seymour, you brought this up, of Japan. So, I think that says a lot. But Seymour, I wanted to ask you a question. I remember, and I could be wrong in my Nintendo history, and I've been wondering this. I've been meaning to ask you. Nintendo did have a little bit of a volatile era, right? When they were transitioning from the cartridges to like the disc, right? And there was that whole kind of drama with like they were going to partner up with Sony, and I guess the PlayStation was supposed to be like a Nintendo thing, and that whole thing fell out. During that era, I feel like Nintendo was sort of going through a rough patch. In your opinion, like what do you think? Because now it seems like they're riding high, and they've been riding high for a long time. What has changed over there, you think? Because from that era to now, have they changed how they approach this stuff? Or because I feel like Nintendo has just skyrocketed, and it hasn't like, for example, it hasn't really embraced like the craziest of new technologies. It still is pretty much like the classic Nintendo that you kind of grew up with. So like, what's the deal here? Is it just the strength of the IP, or what's changed?
It's so at first, when they had that deal with Sony, Nintendo actually created the PlayStation, technically for falling for that collaboration falling out, because what happened was they actually was built they were building it was like an add-on for the Super Nintendo that was going to be under it, and then you could play CD that'll be a little bit more powerful, so it would be not N64 level but a little bit better. And well, technically it was the PlayStation, right? And because they had all this stock already made and they made this deal with Nintendo, they're like, you know what, screw it, we'll just make the PlayStation. And Sony released a PlayStation. That's kind of how PlayStation was born. And but to be honest, what happened was I think Nintendo back then was like, we're the best gaming company. Nintendo is now is like, we're the best Nintendo company. We're our own, we are our own category where we're just innovative and we work with everyone now. Before, in the past, they were scared to work with anyone. Now they're willing to work with, they're willing to work with Sony, they're willing to work with Microsoft and Xbox, and they're willing to work with Hollywood studios now. In the past, they were scared. They got unfortunately screwed over with that live action Mario movie, and that past history haunt them because in Japan culture, it kind of felt like they failed as a company and to their consumers, that we released a product that was like not so great. But now they're like, no, we're Nintendo. We're willing to work with everyone else, but we will be Nintendo. And Nintendo is its own category of gaming because there's no one like Nintendo right now.
No, there isn't.
Well,
no, Nintendo, and that's why a lot of people were saying, like, when Universal got with Nintendo and they were licensing out Super Mario and Donkey Kong and all this stuff, and Zelda too, it's going to be Zelda eventually in the parks. A lot of fans were like, well, how can Disney respond to this? They should do, some other video game property, but there is no other video game property like Nintendo. Nintendo is the Mickey Mouse of this industry. Disney would be downgrading no matter who they chose. Go ahead, Webb. I do apologize, brother.
No. Yeah, I would say that kind of Seymour, going off what you were saying, is that Nintendo being its own, like you were saying, right? It's its own brand, it's its own like living being, so to speak, right? And I feel that with Nintendo, with them, they're kind of they're spreading their wings out right now to parks, now going to like Hollywood stuff. I feel that Nintendo really has a clear vision and idea of how they're going to kind of maintain that control of their brand image, right? Like, okay, we put in the park. Okay, well, we kind of we had to have that kind of control of how it's represented, how it's showcased, right? What goes in there, and I think same with movies, right? Unless Nintendo feels confident with like another party working with their IP, I don't think they're going to go for it because they want to maintain the integrity of of all these franchises, right, under them. And I think that they feel confident in themselves and their IPs, that they see the potential of more money, more IP awareness, of brand awareness, of going to different avenues of like entertainment, right? So video games, movies, theme parks, whatever else that they'll be going into. But I think we're now seeing them start to reach for the stars, right? To actually get more of Nintendo out there and get that and recoup a lot of not recoup, but get a lot of money in from all those different avenues.
It's a really smart business decision and even just a creative decision. Putting Mario out there, partnering up with Universal to do the Mario movie, which now they're going to do a sequel, probably many sequels, obviously. It'll be, I'm sure the sequel will be very successful and they'll do more. But getting into Hollywood in that way, I think is really, really smart. Branching out like this, obviously in theme parks. One of the things that has really solidified Disney as a pop culture like beast, like, is really all the different tentacles it has in pop culture. So when you have movies, TV, theme parks, merchandise, all the stuff, it creates a situation where your IP stays relevant for way, way, way longer. Now, Nintendo has already been relevant for 40 years, but it'll even solidify that even more so now going forward, because now they're in theme parks at Universal. So all this stuff plays off each other. And that's why Disney has been so successful. That's why all these other companies like Universal are trying to duplicate what kind of Disney kind of did with that. And I think it's really smart for Universal to sort of get into this. Video games are very popular, and I think they're going to be popular for years and years to come. But here's the thing, you never really know. what the future may hold, right? So it's a good idea for Nintendo to diversify. They have great IPs. You have Mario and all these great IPs. It's good. It's a great idea to diversify, expand your flywheel, and then you kind of protect yourself against anything that kind of comes at you in the future that you might not predict, right? Like, what if there is a video game industry crash? Well, now Nintendo's protected against that because now they're making Hollywood movies and they're in theme parks and all this other stuff. So it could kind of ride that out. You know what I'm saying? So really smart moves. Go ahead.
And OG, I mean, let's think about this, right? Nintendo, they're expanding into theme parks and movies. Disney is expanding into the video games. Now, both sides have had that crossover before into the other medium, but now they're both really going. They're charging that train in there, man. And I think both sides are going to use the strong suit of their IPs to go into another medium full force and really kind of wreak havoc in a good way. You know, in a good way to go in there and kind of dominate with their IPs. You know, because I feel that with Disney, the one thing they've always been lacking, they've had it is the gaming, right? They've had games, you know, of course. Nintendo, same thing. They had movies, right? Little cartoon shorts and stuff like that. But neither side has really kind of dominated or really went fully all into the other medium. Now they are. They're both popular in their own right, in their own sections. Now they're both going into what one is in the other. So Nintendo's going into movies and parks. Nintendo's going into games. So you know, it's smart, you know, because these companies have to think of what other ways can we, of course, right, generate money, right? So what other ways can we put our brand out there and get more guests, get more entertainment, and you know, have and generate money for the company.
No, you're right, Webba, and you have things like, you know, for Disney that they're all in on this Fortnite thing, which has been proven to be very successful already with the Simpsons crossover collabo, and now you're getting your IPs out there to another audience. Now you're getting that IP out there to gamers and what have you, and you know, whether it's Simpsons or you know Incredibles or whatever it is, you know, Spider-Man, but you get that out there. And it's a really, really smart move. But it says here, I mean, even in regards to the future, Nintendo says their goal of putting smiles on faces will never change, and they'll do so with unique offerings in gaming and beyond. Mr. Duck, you want to elaborate on this? This is kind of interesting.
Oh man.
Yeah, actually, you know, we've been talking about how companies, you know, entertainment companies, how they're going to combat AI, and when media companies and even gaming companies, right? What can just get killed off with instantly by just content that can be created instantly with AI. It's just the passion, it's the smiles, it's a dedication from the fandom that you can't replicate with anything else. You see that with Disney, and you know, you see that with Nintendo, and it goes full circle on what we're talking about. How, like, you know, we got this big flywheel effect, and the consumer is spending a little bit more money. You might have a little bit less consumers coming in, but the higher quality consumers, the customers, are spending more money on everything because they're so integrated into the fandom that you would go to the theme parks, you go play their video games, and you'll watch their movies, right? And you know, Disney is the same way. You got that flywheel. You go to the cruises, the theme parks, the movies, and now they're Fortnite, and you got their IPs. You're bringing in everyone into this full circle. And it generates, it's good for the shareholders because it generates, because we're talking about earnings, it generates more revenue for them, and it creates this like base that is strong, and it's consistently will be there, and to the point where it can be multi-generational, where my father liked Nintendo, I like Nintendo, and when I have kids, they will like Nintendo, and it will go further down. And because they put smiles on our faces, and it's something that can't be replicated with AI. And I think that's the future where a lot of these entertainment companies will have to go. Where instead of just having a generic movie come out and be like, oh, look, this movie came out and we made $2 billion. Instead, what they will have is a movie that's dedicated to the fandom. And it might not do us $2 billion, but it will create that success in the flywheel where they will spend everything. They'll spend, you know, the theme parks, the merchandise, gaming. And yeah, these companies, I think that's they're heading to, and Nintendo's been doing that really well.
Yeah, no, they have. They've been a really smart company. I mean, the Japanese, and we talk about it all the time here on OG55, and especially Seymour on a lot of your shows at on the Duck Pond and what have you, where the Japanese really get it, dude. And it's not like just for one thing, right? I mean, it's like they get it in so many ways, whether it's entertainment, like movies, what have you, or even theme parks. We talk a lot about it here on OG55. Like the Tokyo parks are amazing. Whether it's Tokyo Disney Sea or what have you. The culture over there, they really know how to like foster this amazing creative environment. And we're seeing more and more of this, whether it's Nintendo or whether it's, anime,
Yep.
with like One Piece or it's growing because there is such a focus on that quality. And I don't know. It's something that I think a lot of American companies should probably take notes on. But yeah, and in terms of AI, it is troubling. We always joke around in our text group chats about AI that we're cooked. We're cooked. We're cooked, right? See, we're cooked. But I think at the end of the day, I do think, and maybe this is just the optimist in me. I do think that it's going to kind of settle where there's going to be a compromise. I don't think AI is going to take over everything. I do think there is a lot of fervor out there to sort of manage this thing and keep the human touch and the human experience intact. So while AI will be a part of our experience, right, where we're like utilizing it to maybe accent the creative process, I don't think it's going to ever completely replace the creative process. You know what I'm saying? I think there's far too many people out there that really do want that human touch. And yeah, so we'll see though. You know what I'm saying?
I do want to mention one thing is that the
Sure.
one thing I like about Nintendo, some people might not like it, is that they do not care for any of the backlash. They simply do not care.
Oh yeah.
Two ex-employees who used to work on a podcast for Nintendo Treehouse, Kit and Krista, they stated that Nintendo just doesn't care. They revealed, behind the curtains that they just simply ignore everything in that, and they will simply do what Nintendo does. They'll create the quality experience in gaming. And now you're seeing that in movies and theme parks, but they'll create that quality experience. And if you don't like it, then you don't like Nintendo. And they don't get that pushback. They don't care for that pushback because, sometimes when you do, sometimes you do have, people concerned, especially on X these days in social media, right? They have concerns and they're trying to push back on Nintendo and they're like, and Nintendo's just like, no, we're not going to do it because you're not going to make everyone happy. Because if you make one side happy, then the other side is not happy, and then you're actually hurting the core audience that you had for that, your core consumer base that actually loved the Nintendo, just for the small other audience that you wanted to please when there was no issue in the first place.
Yes.
And I see a lot of companies unfortunately do that. They please the smaller audience, and you get lower quality content because of that, lower quality movies or TV shows, and that's not. I don't think that's the right move. And because Nintendo and Japanese, they're firm to their ground and they just keep producing what they do best, and it's working.
Well,
It is. Go ahead, Webba.
oh, sorry, OG. I was gonna say was that well, it's Nintendo not. Let's say what it is. It's Nintendo not pandering to certain audiences, right? And what Nintendo's doing is like, well, if you don't like our product, too bad. We're still just gonna do what Nintendo does, right? Now, here's the thing. I think companies should at least listen to some feedback, right? If it's like legit, like a legitimate complaint or criticism, that's fine. If you're just hating to hate, which seems to be a lot of the internet these days, I think that's a whole nother issue. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Nintendo shouldn't, or any company like really should stray away from what made their business successful, right? Because if you stray away from that, if you try to please everybody, you're not pleasing nobody. And I think that's a lot of trap a lot of these other companies fall into. And I think at least for Nintendo, that's one that they haven't fallen into and that they're not going to fall into.
Yeah,
It's a
especially
smart move. Go ahead, Webba. I'm gonna
no.
ask you more.
I was just gonna, especially today when there's so much cancel culture, when there's not needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right, Seymour. And look, I mean, that's the thing where it's like, yeah, you don't want to be a reactive company. When you try to ride the middle, of the road,
Yeah.
and you're on both sides of the road, basically, you're gonna get hit by both sides, right? And that we saw that in real time with Star Wars when it came to the Rise of Skywalker. With that movie, they were trying to like make everybody happy. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and it made at the end really made nobody happy, right? So that's the dilemma. And like you said, Webba, you make a great point where you want to listen to your fans. You don't want to be completely shut out to criticisms or what the fans are saying. But at the same time, you don't want to be super reactive. You don't want to get in there with the cancel culture stuff or whatever that is and be overly, oh my God, about it. You know, Disney has gotten themselves into that. A lot of companies have gotten themselves into that trap in the past. And again, I want to make it very clear. I'm not saying that like these companies should never listen, but I think sometimes you can over listen. And all too often companies do over listen. So, you know, Nintendo doesn't seem to be one of those companies though. And I think it is part of that Japanese culture. So it's interesting.
Well, right. And again, I would go back to, if you're continuing to create the same type of products, right, that the fan base and that the people fell in love with your product for in the first place, you're not really going to have an issue. I mean, yeah, you'll have your complainers here and there, right? But you'll always have that. If you try to like go in a different direction and be like, okay, how about we do something else that's not what made us popular in the first place, right? Now you're losing that audience to what point Seymour was talking about. Why are you going to change things up when it doesn't need to change? Like, why fix something that's not broken? And that's what a
No,
lot of these
exactly.
companies try to do, and it doesn't work.
No, exactly. You're trying to fix things that are not broken. Exactly, dude. And a lot of these companies have a model or a thing that works. You know what I'm saying? Like that, a
Yep.
thing that really works. And a lot of times they try to, like you were saying, Webber, they try to reinvent the wheel. And you don't
Yep.
need to do that. You know,
No.
Disney, yeah, these companies do it all the time. And it's like Nintendo doesn't seem to really be into that. They don't want to get into all that. Hey, we have a great product here, a family product. People love Mario. People love this. People love that. Let's just lean into what makes us Nintendo. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And you do that, people are gonna love your games. And you create the same high quality games. You have the same like kind of type of vision of what Nintendo is and what it means. You're golden. Like you don't have to do anything else for like 200 years.
yeah.
Just keep doing that, and people are gonna keep loving it. You
Yeah, no,
know.
exactly. Exactly. Now, this is courtesy of GoNintendo.com. It says Nintendo plans for growth Nintendo's plans for growth include acquiring dev companies, pursuing more non-gaming avenues, and growing Nintendo accounts. So this
Wow.
is a 3-point plan. Now, Seymour, you brought this up where they're really branching out, right?
Yes, and all these articles actually came from the earnings report, the earnings call. So here, Nintendo was actually talking about. It kind of actually reminds me of Disney a little bit, where they are acquiring like IPs and then diversifying to other sectors of the company. And for shareholders, that's actually really good because gaming is a cyclical business where if you release one game and it takes like let's say 2 years to come out for that one game, what happens in between that time?
Yeah.
Well, Nintendo didn't have a plan for that, but now they do, and they've been having a plan where okay, let's acquire. Now they're planning of acquiring developer companies so they can produce more games, but then also non-gaming avenues like theme parks and movies and TV shows. And we'll talk about Nintendo Pictures a little bit too, because that's I think Nintendo's future in a way, and it could be competing with the media companies. But yeah, Nintendo is basically essentially trying to create that flywheel now that we've already discussed. But
Yeah.
it looks like they're acquiring developers, just like how Disney would acquire IPs and companies like Lucasfilms and Marvel. Nintendo is not afraid to do that as well. Nintendo wants to grow, and Mario's starting to look like Bob Iger.
Yes, and Seymour, I want to say this too, right? Because you point out going to theme parks. Here's the thing: with Nintendo going into the theme parks, right? Going into like let's say streaming or whatever, right? I mean, Nintendo is going to be ranking in the dough, dude. Not only from their games, but like do all that theme park merchandise. I'm sure Nintendo gets a huge cut of that, right? And like anything else that they license out, it's going to be they'll be ranking in money if they're acquiring these dev companies. They'll be making money from that. I mean, yeah, but here's the thing though. Nintendo is kind of they're spending money to make money, right? So, and that's kind of what you have to do. But I think Nintendo is gonna really try to hold whatever they're kind of putting their money in. I think they're gonna try to hold these kind of other companies what we say, like kind of to a standard. Like, what do you think, OG? Do you think they might hold them to a standard? Like, hey, you're with us, man. You gotta step it up.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, if Nintendo is going to get in bed with any company, they're going to hold that company to a high standard because Nintendo demands quality.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be in those contracts, those licensing agreements and what have you. I mean, I'm sure they have all that laid out in the Universal deal. There's going to be a level of control that Nintendo would like as well. You know what I'm saying? In that process. So,
I think
yeah,
we
no.
discussed it before, where there was reports that Nintendo wasn't happy at what was happening behind the scenes in California Universal Studios, where the quality wasn't up to par to Japanese parks, and Nintendo management wasn't happy.
Yeah, and they've
I'd
cleaned it
say,
up. And they've
yeah,
cleaned it up. I was there recently, and it's not. Those first few months were really kind of, oh my gosh, what's going on over here? A lot of maintenance issues. And I haven't really seen anything lately like that. You know what I'm saying? Realistically, look, there's always going to be some wear and tear with any theme park thing. You know what I'm saying? You got millions of people going through that. But in the beginning, it was really rough, dude. And I don't see as much of that. So to your point, Seymour, I think Nintendo really, threw the hammer down. You know what I'm saying?
Well, also too, I'm sure Nintendo doesn't want to see a bunch of like Twitter thread and Instagram videos of like broken audio animatronics and like dirt on like that Mario Kart. Was it the not the bedding, but was it the tarp on top?
Oh,
Right?
like like the vinyl.
Yeah, I'm sure like the executives at Japan are like, what is that? You go fly out, OG, go fly out there, go tell them to clean that.
Yeah.
Go fix that
No,
up.
100%. No, you got to. You got to. I mean, Nintendo is a quality brand, and they hold themselves to a very high standard. And when they're getting involved with these companies like Universal or any other company, they're going to hold these companies to a high standard. Now, to be fair to Universal, Universal has done a really good job in the theme park market and their licensing relationships. I think they've done a great job fostering this Harry Potter stuff. In all honesty, I mean, the theme park Harry Potter stuff has been more successful than a lot of the movies that they've done with like Fantastic Four. I mean, the theme park side has been massively successful.
Yes.
So they've done a great job. And then Nintendo, it was a rough go in the beginning, I think. But they've cleaned that up, literally and figuratively. So I think it's going to be good. But we'll see, But Nintendo is a quality brand, and they're going to hold these companies accountable. So
yes. Now, whoever reads this, before we hit to that, I just want to point out, I love that in the quotes there at the first where it says, as an entertainment company. I find that really interesting because they're not saying as a video game company, they're saying as an entertainment company.
It's a new day, bro. It's a new day. I'm telling you that, and like what you're saying, Seymour, they're getting into the flywheel big time. You want to go ahead and give us a little bit of a rundown, Seymour, as to what we're looking at here?
Yeah, I'll give you the summary of this because it's pretty long. But essentially, Miyamoto, somebody asked, again, this is the earnings call, right? With their earnings, talked about Nintendo Pictures and how Nintendo Pictures will be different for the future for Nintendo compared to other companies. And they're saying they're an entertainment company. And our primary goal, they talked about how it's about making smiles. And it doesn't matter it's not just gaming. It could be any platform. It could be mobile, theme parks, and movies. As long as it brings them that smile to experience Nintendo and Mario and all the other IPs, that is what they're looking for. And they talked about how they're willing to work with bigger companies now, studios, like even Hollywood studios, using frameworks that work and create quality content in media, like the Super Mario Brothers movie, and then the second one that's coming out soon. I'm excited for that, Super Mario Galaxy. Me and Webba reacted to the trailer for that one, and also the live action Zelda movie that's coming out with Sony. So they're willing to work with other partners, and they're not scared. But and that framework works, and they're going to produce high quality content because Nintendo, as Nintendo standard. But what they have also stated that Nintendo Pictures will go in a different route, and it's essentially like Nintendo's version of Hollywood and becoming Nintendo. They're going to look at creating video and film, but in their own wacky Nintendo way, instead of the classic Hollywood style that we see now in theaters.
So Seymour, I have a question. So will the Nintendo Pictures, will this be movies that aren't of like Nintendo IP that we know, right? Because obviously like Mario and
It
Zelda,
could
those are
be
played.
anything that any IP from Nintendo. They're looking to innovate in the media sector. So think of like gaming where
Yes.
Nintendo works with Microsoft right now. They work with other third parties. It's on the Nintendo Switch platform. They're not, and we talked about it at the beginning of the show how Nintendo, it's not just about the graphics, it's about the innovative games. But they're willing to work with partners who's willing to do graphics and those games. Nintendo is doing that for movies right now. Super Mario Brothers, right? You get the high quality movies, but it's not Nintendo's way of making things, and they want to do that with Nintendo Pictures.
I
Yeah,
see.
it's fascinating.
That's so cool. Do we know if they plan on for these Nintendo Pictures of like having like actual theatrical releases?
They only teased us that they want to create essentially uh a Nintendo Pictures will be Nintendo for gaming, but for media. That's all they've teased so far.
Okay.
You know, Nintendo likes to be secretive. They like to be slow
Yeah.
and secretive. They don't like things to get leaked. And if things get leaked, you're getting fired immediately. They'll track you. Uh, like nowadays, even for game releases, it's like 3 to 6 months. There's a trailer and then it comes out.
Yeah.
You don't have to
No,
wait 2 years anymore because Nintendo likes to. It doesn't like leaks, and also they like to have the high quality game come out right before just come out a few months after the trailer and get that experience. And I think you see that for film as well, and I think they're going to do that. The innovation, the gaming. I played Super Mario Wonder, and that experience brought me back in. And I was like, I unfortunately sold Disney shares because of that and bought Nintendo shares because it brought me that, okay, they're an innovative company. And now they want to do that for film and video and other formats. And we talked about how they might have a streaming service called Nintendo Video and they might, branch out to that. I'm all for that.
Yeah, smart.
And it's just funny though, because I was actually looking at the whole Fortnite thing for Disney, and I'm like, should I buy more shares for Disney now? I'm actually thinking about it, but then it's like, well, now Nintendo might do Nintendo Pictures and all this other stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'll keep it Nintendo, and it's because they want to be innovative, and look, people know that I'm a bigger Nintendo fan than any other company. It's my top thing. My number one IP, I would say the second IP is like The Simpsons, but yeah, the top IPs are like Mario and the whole Nintendo family. But I'm excited for this because if they can do in the media side what they do for gaming, I'm all for that.
Yeah, no, me too. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. Now, Nintendo Pictures, Seymour, how do you think that would affect the relationship with like Universal in the movie side of things, or
No,
would it?
I don't think it would because you look at Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. It doesn't affect any partners in this on the platform.
Yeah,
It actually brings in more people because Nintendo is in their own different category, and that's what we've been talking about how Nintendo is Nintendo, and even Xbox today talked about how like, oh, we're not in competition with Nintendo. We would like to work with Nintendo, and I think it'll happen the same way in the media side. Nintendo will do their own thing, but they're willing to work with partners as well. And that's why we're seeing movies like Super Mario Brothers and the live action Zelda, which started filming in New Zealand, by the way.
live action Zelda is gonna be dope,
Woo!
dude. Didn't they film Lord of the Rings over there or something?
Yeah.
Dude, that's gonna be sick, dude. That's gonna be
Yeah.
so freaking
Dude,
sick.
Dude, Seymour, you know what I can't wait for? I hope that movie has a awesome cinematic orchestral version of
Yes.
like the main
Oh,
Legend of Zelda theme. You know,
come
dun, dun, dun,
on.
dun, 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 dun. Oh man, can you imagine, dude? Like a big orchestral version of that, dude.
Oh,
That would
dude.
be awesome.
That would be the sauce, bro. As the kids say, that'd be the sauce. That'd be amazing.
Sauce.
That would be awesome, dude. I would really, if you're gonna do Zelda, you got to go big like that. You got to go big like that, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And that's why even for the theme park side, I don't want them to do Zelda like they did Mario or Donkey Kong. I think Mario and Donkey Kong, that style is great for those franchises in that theme park universe. But Zelda needs to be like the Lost Continent or like a Galaxy's Edge or like a more of a kind of a real world,
Realistic.
yeah, experience. Zelda's got to go big, bro. It's got to go big. But Mr. Duck, this is fascinating. I do appreciate you. You're an amazing host always, and this is a really cool conversation. I love what Nintendo is doing here, and I'm looking forward to it, man. You know what I'm saying? This is gonna be really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah. Go on.
oh, sorry, no, sorry, Seymour, you go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, from 5 to like 10 years from now, it's gonna be a different industry for entertainment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
You
big
know,
time.
we could be to the point where it's like when we're talking about films and movies and things coming in the movie theater or maybe even streaming service, we'll be talking about Nintendo Pictures as one of the big ones, and instead
Yeah.
of just now coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, absolutely.
I actually want to say that I think with Nintendo Pictures, right, and them coming more to the theme parks, I really hope because what this sounds like, what some of these articles made it sound like was Nintendo's version of turbocharging, right? I really hope that we see now Nintendo now actually come out and put out more of their other IPs, right? Like into the parks or movies like Metroid, F Zero, Kirby, Star Fox, right? Maybe some Kid Icarus, Fire Emblem, right? I mean, just more than the games, like put out some awesome like TV shows, animation, right? I like merchandise, right? Dude, I would love some Star Fox merchandise, like a Star Fox animated show or like an F Zero racing thing, right? Like a Fire Emblem battle, like dude, like there's so many opportunities now with Nintendo kind of branching out into these other medium of entertainment. I think really they should now hop on that chance to now really utilize these other IPs and characters.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, yeah, I was just gonna say one thing. Yeah, in regards to Star Fox, yes, I would like to see more content from Star Fox.
Oh, yeah.
I believe they were working with a company one time. I think they were working with a few companies, Netflix as well. Like Netflix was working on Zelda, and another company was working on a Star Fox series where they were puppets, but that got canceled. Unfortunately, a lot of things got canceled. Apparently, something got leaked from Sony, and they were in talks about something, and Nintendo kind of just canceled everything with everyone. And then Netflix too got leaked too about the Zelda collaboration, and then like, okay, we canceled that too. They were just in talks. They weren't really doing anything, but there were plans coming, and then they're like, nah. But for Star Fox, I would like to see some Star Fox.
Yeah, that would be pretty sick. Star Fox is a cool little franchise. I would love to see more of that too. It's fun. I used to play that all the time when I was a kid. But Mr. Duck, Mr. Webba, it's always an honor. Mr. Duck, if you want to close us out today, this is a fantastic episode of the Duck Pond. Give it up for Mr. Seymour Duck.
Oh, thank you. But really, it's the host here. It's OG55 Mr Webba. Thank you for coming on to the Duck Pond and talk about just nerd out with me, corporate talk, and Nintendo. Like I said, Nintendo is my favorite company. If you want to call me a shill, you can, because I've been called shills for other companies. That doesn't make any sense, but this one, it makes sense. So, but yeah, OG55, where can they find you?
Thank you, Mr. Duck. I do appreciate you, man. And yeah, you can find me right here on Orange Grove 55 talking with these fine gentlemen all about theme parks, the Disney corporate side, just Hollywood in general, studio stuff, all that good stuff right here. Orange Grove 55. You can also find me on Instagram, Orange Grove 55.
Thank you. And Mr. Webba, where can they find you?
Mr. Seymour Duck, thank you so much, Duck, for having me on the Duck Pond today with OG55. You can find me, Mr. Webba, on all these social media platforms: Instagram, Threads, Twitter. I think that's it, right? But yeah, Mr. Webba at Mr. Webba 91, and you can also find me right here on Orange Grove 55.
There he is. There he is.
Thank you. And yes, you can find me here at the Duck Pond on Orange Grove 55, on X at Mr. Seymour Duck. And last but not least, you're always a duck at the Duck Pond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and become a member today.